When it comes to funerals, I can confidently say that there aren't many cultures around the world that do it like Ghanaians do. When it comes to funerals, Ghanaians are like King Kongs in that arena. People go into literal death trying to create the perfect funeral for their loved one. Now this is because the funeral serves as the final opportunity to pay respects and honor the dead for the final time. So it has to be big, it has to be beautiful, and it has to be glorious. And also, the bigger and the more beautiful the funeral is, the more respect is going to be associated to the family and most importantly to the deceased. But that's just the surface. There's something deeper and more spiritual to Ghanaian funerals. In almost all the cultures in Ghana, funerals serve as the beginning of the transition of the deceased from the land of the living into the afterlife. So in most African cultures, there's no heaven, there's no hell, there's just the afterlife. After a person dies, they go to live with their ancestors. From the things I've read, that life is quite similar to the one we are living here. But there's a catch. Not everyone who dies here will go to the ancestral plane or the ancestral world successfully. Some people end up as wandering ghosts. They have no purpose, they have no destination, they just roam around. Why? Because their funerals were not done well. So before you start judging any of the videos you see online, videos like this one and this one, which I guess are quite disturbing, you should consider why the family decided to go with that action. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the weird practices in Ghanaian funerals and their significances. Why was this done? Why are some people buried in oddly shaped caskets? Is it just an aesthetic choice, or do they actually serve a functional purpose? Well, let's find out. But before we do, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. So like I was saying, in Ghana and in many parts of the African continent, for the deceased to be successfully transitioned into the afterlife, there has to be some very specific customs and practices performed, like prayers and pouring libation to appease the ancestors, to tell them, oh, our loved one has died and he's currently transitioning from this plane to yours. So we are praying that you help them have a successful journey and accept them with open arms when they get there. Now this is pretty standard and even performed in Western cultures. They might not pour libation, but they pray for God and the heavens to accept their dead relative. So nothing really weird with that. That leads me to the next part of this video. Let's get into the weird part of the Ghanaian funeral scene and the practices that are performed over there. I'm going to begin with what I believe is one of the most disturbing practices at some Ghanaian funeral: the funeral staging. If you've been on TikTok for the past week, you have definitely come across a post like this one. This is the Ghana funerals trend. This is a trend where people satirize a real Ghanaian funeral practice where the deceased is dressed up or posed in a manner that is connected to their profession or their passions. And I must admit, a lot of them are very funny. In real life, if you were someone who belonged to the Ga community and you died as a teacher, there's a chance that you would be buried in a casket that looked like this. But if your family wants to go the extra mile, they might pose you as if you were teaching like this. So if you died as a Ga YouTuber, you can imagine what your funeral staging could look like. Alright, so the question becomes why? Why is this being done to this dead person? Why not just allow the person to rest in peace?
Do you man understand the meaning of rest in peace? A person has died. A person has died. Why have you got them standing up at their funeral? All the posts I've seen today, I am traumatized and diasporically disappointed, blood. I saw a video where a barber died. They made this man stand up at his own funeral, hold clippers and pretend to cut people's head. How can I die and you are sending me back to work at my funeral? Are you sick or something?
They lived for however many years. If they were a teacher, they went to class, and there was a very high chance that they weren't paid for months, maybe years. And now that they are dead, are you trying to make them relive their trauma? Well, that's not quite the idea. But this is. It's about respect and dignity. Respect to the living and to the dead. So when you see someone being posed like that, both those who knew the deceased and those who didn't get a glimpse into the life that person lived. There are some instances where a person will be sat and surrounded by most of their belongings. So if they had jewelry, it will be on a table beside them. If they had a lot of books, there will be books there. And all this is supposed to showcase the person's status, to show the life this person lived, to help mourners look past the tragedy, respect the person's life, and be able to honor and celebrate their life appropriately. Like I said, the deceased is supposed to be respected both in the land of the living and the land of the dead. So now that we are done with the land of the living, let's go into the ancestral and the spiritual plane. That practice is also supposed to show the ancestors and whoever happens to be in the ancestral plane, the type of person that is coming to them. So it's like a trailer for the ancestors. One of our people lived a very beautiful life, and this is everything you need to know about him. So yeah, here you go. It doesn't end there, but I'm going to close the chapter on the funeral staging and move to the next step of the deceased transition from here to the afterlife. The next one will be putting coins, jewelry and other things with the deceased in their casket. This is another symbolic gesture supposed to show how well off that person was, also to show the ancestors that this guy did good for himself. But the more fascinating part of this practice we haven't talked about is this. So you see how when in real life here, when you're traveling to a place, you have the destination in mind, you dress up for your journey, and the next thing you do is to pack some money because you need to buy tickets. If it's a long journey, you will have to buy some water, snacks, maybe food. Well, it's not much different when it comes to what we are talking about. We also believe that the dead might also need some essentials on their journey. Among the Ghans and Akans, you find them putting coins, jewelry, and in some cases handkerchiefs. Because I remember when my grandma died, all of her grandkids had to buy a white handkerchief to be placed in the coffin. And that, I feel, is supposed to tie her back to this reality. Or maybe it's supposed to help her remember us in the afterworld. I didn't really research on that, but yeah, that's basically the ideology. So the coins, jewelry, and other things sometimes book are put in the casket to help pay the transportation fee. And also if they end up needing to buy something in the afterlife, they will have some money to use. Isn't that beautiful? It is believed by some people that if this money is not put with the deceased, they won't be able to embark on their journey and they will end up as wandering ghosts just roaming around aimlessly in the land of the living. That's quite haunting. In the case that that practice is observed, we will have to move on to the next step. The vehicle the deceased will be transported in, aka the coffin. This is one of the most beautiful and artistic parts of this whole culture. Similar to the other things we've discussed, it's supposed to express to the living and the dead the type of person the deceased was. So in typical Ghanaian fashion, they have to get the Mercedes and the Lamborghinis of caskets to bury their people in. Special caskets are designed for this purpose, each one specifically designed for the deceased.
First of all, Charlie, rest in peace to the guy. Rest in peace to the macho man. So apparently this guy is the gym instructor, like the gym master. And so this is the way they figured they could acknowledge him.
It goes from very deep and spiritual to jovial and fun. Now these here are known as the fantasy coffins, colloquially known as the Abebu Adaka. This is a practice mostly observed in the Ga communities. When a person dies, the family can choose to get one of these abebu adaka for the burial. Symbols like the lion, the cock, and crab are mostly reserved for family clan leaders. And those symbols may represent the family totem. So if the head of a clan whose symbol was a lion dies, then that person would be buried in a fitting casket. Now we can come to the other side of this, whatever you want to call this. On this side, the casket is designed on the deceased's passion and profession. If you were a banku seller, if you sold food, you could be buried in a dadeseng. Before you are buried in the dadeseng, you'll be made to pose as if you were cooking. And then they will put you in a dadeseng before they put you in the ground. So I totally get why people are saying we are not allowing the deceased to rest in peace. If you were drunk, the casket could be designed in any shape or form the family deems appropriate. So where are we? We dress them up, we've given them money, they are now in the best car. The next is to finally transport them from here to the graveside. And that is where the most popular practice of them all comes inside. Where the pallbearers balance the caskets on their heads and dance in procession to the cemetery. So what is the significance of this practice? Now this is another very important part, because if anything goes wrong here, the pallbearers could be in real spiritual danger. The spirit of the deceased could end up lingering among the living, and a whole lot. The coordinated dance is supposed to dodge any spiritual attacks and aid in the smooth transition of the soul. Its significance among the living is to somehow distract the mourners from the immense grief they might be feeling, because it will be the final time they are ever going to see their loved one. All that grief and pain is still there, but you look at these pallbearers dancing, you look at that and you are able to look past the tragedy and finality of what is happening and appreciate the essence of that person's life. So that's basically it. A lot of the weird things that are done during funerals actually have a deep and significant meaning to the people practicing it. To us, we believe it helps transition us into the afterlife. And at that point, with tears in your eyes and a heavy heart, you can finally say goodbye to your loved one and help them transition into the afterlife. Alright, thank you for watching. I know this was a bit different from what I usually do on the channel, but let me know if you enjoyed this, so I'll keep making more videos like this one. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with people who you think might find it educative or entertaining. Let me know what practices you observe in your culture, and if I missed anything, you can also let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you another time. Bye bye.